If you're not a Pittsburgh or Georgia Tech fan, you may not know how big this game really is. The ACC is one of the wildest conference races in the entire country right now, and this game will have a massive impact on how the conference ends up playing out. You take a look, Georgia Tech, they're 9-1, 6-1 in conference play, currently atop the ACC standings. If they win this game, they will go to the ACC championship, because their season finale game is against Georgia, not a conference game. Meaning if Georgia Tech wins this game, not only are they in the ACC championship game, but they are an ACC title away from making the college football playoff. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh, they lost to Notre Dame. That didn't derail their season. Pat Narduzzi even said that. They could have lost by 100. They'd be just fine. They're 7-3, 5-1 in conference play, sitting only behind Georgia Tech and Virginia in the ACC standings. Meaning a win here for Pittsburgh would put them atop the standings, and they would be one win away from against Miami from going to the ACC title game and maybe playing for a playoff spot for themselves. This is a massive, massive game. The Panthers and the Yellow Jackets, and we're here to break it down for you right now on the Gridiron Expert. Let's get into it. Let's start with Pitt. I want to start on their offense that was not good last week against Notre Dame. Again, it was one of those weird games for Pittsburgh where, of course, they were trying to win, right? Like, of course, they wanted to beat Notre Dame. But it was almost like Pat Narduzzi didn't care. It was like, look, man, we have our eyes set on the ACC title. We know if we can get to the ACC title, we have a shot at the playoff. Yeah, great. Let's hope we beat Notre Dame. But, like you said, if we lose by 100, it doesn't matter. And some would say that's been taken out of context, but he's right. It wasn't a conference game. It didn't matter. But Pittsburgh still played very poorly. An offense that was thriving in the passing game, led by Mason Heinschel, who they switched to at quarterback, struggled. Heinschel went just 16 for 33 for 126 yards and an interception, which was returned for a pick six. The offense had, 219-something yards? Yeah, 219 yards against Notre Dame on the day. Just was a very bad performance against, granted, one of the best defenses in the entire country. Notre Dame certainly going to be a playoff team. This offense, though, has to do better if they want to beat Georgia Tech. They've got to do a lot better. They've got to take care of the football better. They've got to make better decisions. They've got to get back to doing what they were doing in their massive win streak, where they were averaging over 287 passing yards per game. That's what they've got to do. I also think it would be great if Pittsburgh come into this game, on the road especially, and maybe don't come in here guns a-blazing, just slinging the ball everywhere. Try to come in here and establish the run. Pittsburgh hasn't been great running the football, only 119 rushing yards per game, but prior to that Notre Dame matchup, they'd rushed for at least 100 yards in 5 straight games. And if you can come on the road, establish the run, which would take a little pressure off of your young quarterback, and especially in a game of this magnitude, run the ball well, it sets up the pass, sets up some easy throws, and that's what I would be doing if I were Pittsburgh offensively. Georgia Tech, look, we know enough about them. They want to run the ball. And if you're Georgia Tech, you are probably still sweating a little bit from that near disastrous loss to Boston College. The Yellow Jackets rallied, ended up kicking the field goal as time expired, or close to time expired, against BC to win by 2. Need a lot of yards of offense while also giving up a lot of yards of offense. We'll touch on that later. But here's the thing. Statistically right now, this is the best offense in the country. Georgia Tech is number 1 in the nation in total offense, averaging 496.7 yards per game. That includes 224 on the ground. This team loves to run the ball, and they love to run through Haynes King, their quarterback. His health is the most important thing, not just in this game, but going forward, if Georgia Tech wants to make a run. Haynes King, 807 rushing yards, 14 rushing touchdowns, has been absolutely unbelievable. They've got some other running backs behind him. Malachi Hosley has been phenomenal, 625 yards and 7 touchdowns as the second leading rusher. And then King at quarterback, doing well through the air as well, over 2,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. Only 2 interceptions all year for King. And some would say, great decision-making. I certainly attribute it to that. But also the fact that he hasn't had to throw the ball that much because of how well they've been running football. But it should be noted, King has thrown for 300 yards or more, at least 300 yards in 3 straight games. So it seems to be coming together for the Yellow Jackets. They are still a run-first team. They are still a team that wants to run through Haynes King, wants to run the football. But if push comes to shove, or if there's a 2-minute drill, they've got to air it out, King has clearly shown that he's more than capable, averaging over 272 passing yards per game. Bottom line is this. As great as Georgia Tech has been running the ball, as great as they want to continue to do that, they might not be able to do it that much against this Pittsburgh defense. The Panthers are only giving up 90 rushing yards per game. That is 9th in the nation. So Georgia, that's the battle to watch. Battle in the trenches. Can Georgia Tech have their way on the ground against this Pittsburgh team that has a top 10 rushing defense, or will they struggle and have to pivot to Haynes King mostly throwing the ball and having to win the game by himself through the air? He's clearly shown he can do that, but obviously something that Georgia Tech does not want to do. But take a look at Pittsburgh. Here's the thing. They allowed 175 rushing yards last week to Notre Dame. It should be noted that 56 of those came on one play, that one big run to open the scoring by Jeremiah Love, right? So you take away that 56-yard run, and on the day, Pittsburgh only allowed 119 rushing yards on 35 carries for an average of 3.4 yards per carry. Their defense was stingy. I mean, again, one big play, obviously it counts, and it counts in the stats, but again, you take it away, and they did a great job of limiting that Notre Dame rushing defense, or rushing game. Including the Notre Dame game, Pittsburgh has only allowed over 100 yards rushing 4 times this year. Only 4 times this year has a team rushed for over 100 yards on them. So that's the thing, right? And Notre Dame was 175 yards. That was the most they allowed all year. So let's think about this. If you only allow 175 rushing yards to Georgia Tech on Saturday, you're holding the Yellow Jackets to about 50 rushing yards below their season average. To me, that's a success. That's success. But then the question after that becomes, all right, let's say you limit the run game. Can your secondary do their job against Georgia Tech? If Georgia Tech slowly pivots to be more pass-happy and pass-only if they have to, can your secondary do the job? Pittsburgh's secondary hasn't been that great. 235 passing yards per game. They had 2 interceptions last week against Notre Dame. That's huge. They've had 8 interceptions in their last 4 games. That's huge, and that's how they're going to have to win this game. You're coming on the road in a hostile environment. Great job if you limit the run. Are you able to force Haynes King into his mistakes? Only 2 interceptions all year long. They're averaging 2 per game over the last 4 weeks. What's going to give there? That's the question. Georgia Tech, it's bad. I hate to say it. It's bad. Their defense is not good. And I'm not basing this off of what happened last week, but if you want to compare apples to apples or apples to orange or whatever, Pittsburgh beat Boston College 48-7 and held the Eagles to 216 total yards. Georgia Tech beat Boston College 36-34, allowed 537 yards of offense to the Eagles, including 362 passing yards. And then the week before that, or the game before that, I should say, they allowed 340 passing yards to NC State, which is the lone loss on Georgia Tech's schedule right now. So their passing defense is very susceptible. It's very weak. The Yellow Jackets just don't have a good defense, like 104th in the nation in total defense. They're giving up 243 passing yards per game, 166 on the ground. So if you're Georgia Tech, I mean, if I'm Brent Key, I really am focusing more on the pass defense. Pittsburgh has not shown the ability to run that well. They're not a strong running team. Sure, this could be the game where they break through because Georgia Tech's front line hasn't been that great. But if I'm Brent Key, I'm more focused on stopping Mason Heinschel, who has shown prior to that Pittsburgh game that he is that guy, that he can come out here and air it out, sling it, and win some games and put up a lot of points. And you're looking at your last 2 performances, really bad against a bad BC team, and a game maybe where you should have lost, and then you did lose to NC State and got torched in the air in that one. Has Georgia Tech fixed it? Can they fix it? You know, they had a bye week after the NC State game. They didn't fix it. They didn't fix it against a Boston College team that only had 1 win. So the bye week didn't help it. Now you're coming off a game where you're lucky to win, but are you really going to fix it in a span of a week against a team that's significantly better than Boston College? That's my biggest concern. So what can Georgia Tech do? What can Georgia Tech do? You just have to hope that they come out, play 10 times better. You have to hope their defense forces Heinschel into some mistakes like he did last week. And you have to hope the Boston College game maybe served as a wake-up call. Maybe Georgia Tech was overlooking the Eagles in preparation for this Pittsburgh game, knowing how big it was going to be. Maybe you hope that it's an opportunity for the defense to go, holy crap, we've got to wake up, guys. That's back-to-back games where we have looked like garbage. If we want to make the playoff, if we want to make the ACC championship, we've got to get it together. And the bottom line for Georgia Tech is you got to get it together for 1 more game. Sure, you want to beat Georgia. That game, at the end of the day, does not matter. If you want to make the playoff, just win this one. Because the hopes stay alive if you win this one. You lose, you're pretty much done. So just win this one. That would be my message to Brent Key. Just win it. Just get it done. If you're garbage against Georgia the next week, so be it. But play your hearts out against Pittsburgh so we can clinch our spot in the ACC title and have our shot to make that 12-team field. At the end of the day, I do think that's what's going to happen. I do think Georgia Tech gets it done. I don't think it'll be pretty. I think it's going to be close. I think it has a chance to be high scoring because I think Pittsburgh's going to light up this Georgia Tech secondary. But at the same time, I think this Georgia Tech offense is going to light up this Pittsburgh defense. I think they're going to it's going to be a back and forth game. But at the end of the day, I don't like to bet against Brent Key. I've done it a handful of times, typically as an underdog and have to pay it out for me. But I don't like to bet against Brent Key. And in one of the biggest games, and really in Georgia Tech program history, a game that will clinch themselves a spot in the ACC title, I've got to go with the Yellow Jackets. At home, with everything on the line, a veteran quarterback in Haynes King versus a freshman quarterback in Mason Heinschel, and a coach in Brent Key who is absolutely hungry to get this job done for his program. Give me Georgia Tech to survive, just like they did last week, survive against Pittsburgh. The Yellow Jackets will be in the ACC championship game. It doesn't matter what happens to Georgia the next week. They'll be there, and they will be one win away from the college football playoff. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com. Tons of exclusive content over there that you do not want to miss out on. Go check it out. The link for it again in the description, thegridironexpert.com. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.